Hey, welcome to Truth Between Lines. I'm sitting here with Allison Eagle Emoji talking about various subjects, but we're going to go through one very important thing that is sweeping the country, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it. So, Allison, talk about what we're talking about, because this is something you wanted to bring up.
Today, we're going to talk about something that we have discussed several times on this show, and it is what on earth is happening with the Democratic Party. Now, we've theorized that there's definitely some other group that's going to be taking over. They've left a void. Turns out that group is the Democratic Socialists of America.
Yeah, we're starting to see them like take over, because you're looking at elections that it's a matter of who's the most Democrat left-leaning person. Oh, by the way, they have to support certain countries or not support certain countries, and they have to have certain ideologies that are more in line with the Democrat Socialists than they are the actual regular Democratic Party. Right. I mean, that's the other thing. That it's not enough John F. Kennedy anymore and the Democrats there. We're talking about a brand new hybrid. Is it hybrid? Are we offshoot?
I think it's a hostile takeover. I think we have seen this slow trickle of the DSA over the past year and a half, starting with the name calling of, Trump's a fascist and MAGA is, a bunch of Nazis and all of that kind of rhetoric that really dehumanizes half the population. Then we saw all the protests and people are like, these are obviously bought and paid for.
Right.
And now it's not a slow trickle. It's a rising tide of the Democratic Socialists who have infiltrated the Democratic Party and are running for office, and they're kicking out all the normal, regular Democrats.
They are. One thing I was looking at was like Hakeem Jeffries, second highest guy in Congress altogether, and they're literally saying you're next. Like there's a chant for around him in his vicinity, kind of thing. They're chanting you're next behind that, and you're right. It was a slow thing. And you talk about the riots. If you look at the riots and where they were, and you could say, oh, that only happens there. It only happens in Seattle. It only happens in Los Angeles. But now we're starting to see those riots throughout the country in various spots. And you're like, wait a minute, that's happening here in our back door. That is the issue we're running into. There's no longer compartmentalized where it's supposed to be. Like it's acceptable in this thing, even though it's not, but it's acceptable in this area because that's the way that they do things there. Yeah. But we're seeing it now.
Right. Like the indivisible protests. I mean, those happened in every state in the nation multiple times for the past year and a half. Yeah. That wasn't an organic thing that just a bunch of Democrats. I mean, I think that the people that attended them are Democrats and they believe what the Democrat Party is telling them. But the funding and the ideology behind it is Democratic Socialism. And going to your point about Hakeem Jeffries, you're not only seeing it, who is the Senate Minority Leader, he is leadership. Leadership has no choice at this point but to either follow the DSA or be primaried out of their seat. And John Fetterman is another good example of somebody who he rejected what was going on with the Democrats long before anyone knew what was going on. He smelled blood in the water and was like, I'm going to be normal. And, I think the people of Pennsylvania appreciate that.
I do too. I appreciate him doing what he's doing, believing what actually is best for the country per se, even though he's a Democrat, but we'll give him credit for that. Yeah. I'm seeing these elections going, and you mentioned off camera, but it was like, they start small, right? That's the thing. They start in the towns and the cities, and it's very small, little this and that, but they're there. And they accumulate power. Talk about how that's happened, because that was kind of your idea.
Well, I think no better example than here in Knox County. Okay. The Democratic Party here in Knox County isn't as big as the Republican Party. Now they have controlled the city limits, the city municipality for quite some time, since Madeline O'Hara was the city mayor. And so when the Democratic Socialists showed up and started gaining traction, it was while pushing the rhetoric of Trump is a fascist, Nazi, blah, 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 all of that.
And the No Kings too, as well. I mean, we saw a lot of protests with the No Kings going on. And back to that too, I want to talk about, No Kings. You individually had that. Even the Black Lives Matter riots. You got the Occupy Wall Street riots. You've got the thing they had in Seattle where they just, block off streets and that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's a whole collection of all of these different organizations, if you can call it organizations, but they're all there, but they're all funded, allegedly by George Soros, but they are getting money somewhere. And now we're starting to see the fruits of
Right.
that labor that they were doing, because everyone's like, well, it'll stop the riots if I just elect this one guy into office. And that's the promises you're going to see on that one, Mike.
Well, and that's the playbook, is instill fear in your base where you're the only one that can solve the problem. And then they vote for you, and then you get in and enact socialist policies that maybe really the Democrats don't want. Like, they maybe really don't want to defund the police or abolish ICE, because those are two. Obviously, you need police and you need customs enforcement and immigration enforcement. But going back to Knoxville as the example, the Democratic Party does have a stronghold in the city. And now the Democratic Party is running a Democratic Socialist who marched with Maduro, who has read plenty of books on Marx and Stalin and all of those kind of people. And now he's running for the Democratic candidate for mayor. And there are people that are supporting him despite all of the red flags. And that's how it starts. It is a slow rising tide that starts in places like Knoxville, which is deeply red. But the city's not, and they are gaining power and they're gaining support. I mean, you can look at the people that showed up to the No Kings rally, whichever 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 No Kings rallies. They did have people to show up. And, you know, there are going to be people that vote for someone like Bo Hawk, who is the Democratic candidate. And I found this out. I did want to do my research about what these candidates are saying and what they're doing. Bo Hawk, who is, again, the candidate that the Democrats are putting up, not only despite all the red flags, but he was headhunted. He wasn't just a citizen who showed up and said, pick me, I'll do it. The Democratic Party sought him out and convinced him to run. And he's got all the qualifications of the old school Democrats. He's a labor union leader, and he's grew up in a single parent household, and he didn't graduate high school, and he's a blue collar worker. All of those things are true, and the Democratic Party used to really value that kind of stuff. But when you look at the broader picture that he is a socialist and promotes socialist ideologies in his free time, maybe don't elect the socialist.
And I hear that a lot too, when people I'm talking to about that, especially those that are just delusional people, right? And they're like, well, no, but, and this goes for anybody that's running for office, but he or she is a good person though. They'll never do that. Like, no. When they tell you to your face, this is what they're going to do, he doesn't really mean that. I mean, he's just kidding about defunding the police. He doesn't really mean that he wants Medicare for all. Right. And you're like, they're literally telling you exactly the playbook of what they want, and you're going to tell me that they're not truthful with the whole thing. I get a lot of comments, obviously, from various fans around it talking about it. They're like, well, Zohran Mamdani out of New York City, the mayor there, he's doing exactly what he promised for. He's got free this and free that, and I'm like, are you listening to yourself? It's not free. I don't know why you always think that that's what's going on, because it's absolutely not. Number one, it's not free because taxpayer paying for it, but it's causing all kinds of ripple problems that you're going to see in 6 months to a year. But of course, right now, it's free.
I think you saw it almost immediately after Zohran Mamdani was, put into office with the snow and trash removal during like the first month. And it's like, for people like Zohran, I could go on. And he makes me sick to my stomach, because he's one of those people that twists the words. Like, he'll say, oh, we don't want to raise taxes, and then later on say, but we have no choice. That's kind of the silver-tongued thing that he does. And he's always had a smile on his face, grinning, showing his teeth, super friendly. And he'll say, oh, we need free childcare in New York City.
Well, it sounds great. Oh my God, free childcare. That sounds great.
But who's asking for this? Out of all the things that New York City needs to accomplish in his 4-year term, free childcare shouldn't be at the top of the list. It should be getting the trash picked up on time, clearing the snow when there's a blizzard. I mean, it's New York City. It's not like snow is just something that never happens. It's not Florida.
Now they're in a heat wave.
Now the electrical grid can't handle any of the air conditionings in New York City. Those are the things that, as a mayor of a city, that you should be focused on, not free grocery stores and free childcare. If that is truly something that the people of New York City need, then put it on the list, but it shouldn't be the top priority of the
Yeah.
list. That's insane. And what happens next is, they had that budget issue with New York City where they had to get bailed out. And then Mom Donnie shows up and says, hey, I balanced the budget.
Right.
No, you didn't. You got a loan. You borrowed money. That's how democratic socialism works. They sell you a bill of goods and then say, well, I know I said I didn't want to raise taxes, but unfortunately, we're going to have to do that. And we're going to raise it on all of these rich people first.
Yeah. And because who do they blame it on? Like, we have to, we do have to raise taxes. But guess what? That's because President Donald Trump did something, said something. It's all his fault. Or it's because the rich aren't paying their fair share. So therefore, we should tax them more, because obviously if they only did what they're supposed to do, this would all make sense and work just fine. And you're like,
despite the fact that this never worked ever.
Right. Yeah.
They still want to push this. And now they're wanting to, I'm sure you saw on the news, change the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, want to change their policies that they are trying to push, including abolishing the Senate. Yeah.
Say that again. I mean, abolishing the Senate, the United States Senate at this point. I don't understand, because they're too powerful.
I wonder how the people of Rhode Island would feel about abolishing the Senate. Right. They want to go straight to a popular vote. They don't want the Electoral College. And all that does is takes away from the American people. That doesn't solve any problems. It gives more power to the government. And I think that's something that both Democrats and Republicans can agree on, is that the government doesn't need that much power. It doesn't need to be your daddy. It doesn't need to be your babysitter. The government's job is to make sure that the economy is running efficiently and that we have, secure borders, and that our military is the strongest military in the world. Why people want to take money away from the military when we're on the global stage? This isn't the 1800s where we don't really have to worry about it that much. It's 2026. We're a part of the world stage, and America needs to have the best defense possible.
Yeah. Some of the other stuff they want to talk about, I'm reading us off the website too here, but 32-hour work week with no reduction in pay or benefits. So basically, instead of working 40 hours, you're working 32, but you're still being paid for 40 at least. Stronger union powers, which unions, we can argue about those. Higher taxes on wealthy earners and corporations, taxes on large inheritances, and private universities, and a wealth tax.
Do they have anything on that list about fraud or waste?
I mean, yeah, of course not, because that doesn't happen. No, fraud and waste does not happen at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and selling a 32-hour work week, I mean, you could sell that to plenty of Americans, that idea that we only need to work 32 hours. Now, some people are going to love that. Some people don't, are fine. Some people are workaholics and they work all the time. If you've ever been one of my clients, you know that I work all hours of the night. So some people don't really care about that, but nothing about what they're saying is going to mitigate the fraud that we have uncovered. People, wasting taxpayer dollars on anything, on giving needles to drug addicts, that kind of stuff. That's just like, it sounds great. 32-hour work week, and, without a reduction of pay and all of that. But what does that do?
Right. And let's be clear, and it's not only fraud either at that point. It's literally just giving away money to people that supposedly need it. And that's the issue we're running into. It's like,
they're not solving the problem. If there are people, if we want to give $1 billion to solve homelessness, the way to do it isn't to give a bunch of homeless people needles and drug paraphernalia. It is to get them treatment or, other things. I saw Betsy Henderson, who is running against Bo Hawk in our mayor race. She put out a statement yesterday about her plans to solve homelessness. And she said, I got 3 steps. You can either get treatment, you can either go to jail, or we can try to reunite you with your family if you do choose to still live on the streets, because living in the woods in Knox County is no longer happening. And I think all of those are great ideas. None of those involve any of the Democratic Socialist policies. You can actually solve problems without the DSA.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, a lot of people are homeless because they want to. Like, people want to argue that. Like, no, if you go ask them, they enjoy being out there. They enjoy living the life, and they don't want the pressures of quote unquote society.
Right.
But they choose that. Yeah. I mean, and that's, and you know what? I mean, you can't really bother them at that point, because I get it. Like, I understand there's a lot of pressure to being an adult.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is when you're sitting on the street corner, you're bothering people, and you're making people uncomfortable, and you're causing crimes. That's where you draw the line.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you want to go out and camp all day, great, go camp all day, but don't come to me when you need something. But that's what people don't do. I've actually talked to a multiple number of people. Just for the record, I've talked to homeless a lot over through decades, and work with them and tried and figure out the stuff where some of them are just, they want to, that's it. And some of them had homes. With the building I used to have, some of them had homes, but they slept them under my building, under the canopy, because they just wanted to be free.
And then did nobody say, hey, that's mentally, there's something going on there, because as a human being, it is not normal or regular to want to live on the streets.
Right.
That is a mental health issue, which is, again, one of the things that Betsy said was, you can either get mental health treatment, get drug treatment, go to jail, or we'll try to reunite you with your family. All of those are great ideas. Living on the streets is not an option. It's just not. And in where we live in particular, that issue has blown up over the past, I would say, 8 years. It started off not being that bad. You would see one or two homeless people in the downtown area. And then as time went on, I mean, it just exploded. So,
that might be a different video.
That is a different video. I could go on about it. But all that is to say, with the Democratic Socialists, going back to that point, we've seen them take over the Democrat Party slowly but surely. At what point do we say, this is actual communism?
Right.
They try to sell it as, oh, it's just a bunch of socialist policies. It's just labor unions. Yeah, that's how it starts.
Exactly.
Just like with the Democratic Party. It started with, trans kids are, trans women are women or whatever.
Right.
These slow, just makes no sense, cognitive dissonance, and people start buying into it. And then that, created democratic socialism. And at what point does it reach communism? And how do you stop it once it gets there?
Yeah, that's the problem.
You know,
how do you? Yeah, you really can't. Yeah. Some of the other stuff the DSA supports, according to their website, Medicare for all, which we figured that. And I think that's an interesting thing, because you always say healthcare for all. And of course, it sounds great. Fantastic. Healthcare isn't a right, number one. But number two is healthcare involves other people and other organizations.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a free doctor, right? How's the doctor? That's basically at that point slavery at that point, because you're telling the doctor has to do this. They have to by law or whatever they're planning, pushing on for DSA. They're going to say that your doctor has to do it, or you have to subscribe pills, or you have to be able to pharmacist. All these people are involved with healthcare. It's not like a Second Amendment thing or a First Amendment where it doesn't matter. Nobody else is involved. This is what you have to do. So I think one of those things, we can just throw that out. But that, of course, everybody says, that sounds awesome, so we'll do that. But no premiums, no co-pays or deductibles, no guarantees. Just all of this stuff.
Free healthcare.
Yeah. Reproductive and gender affirming care as well. So not only healthcare, but reproductive.
Gender affirming care. Gender affirming for who? Does that mean I can go and get Botox and injections for free because it affirms my gender as a woman, as a young woman, to look young?
Yeah, I wonder how that actually plays out.
It seems it only applies to patriarchal standards. And that's another thing with the DSA. They're very anti-patriarchy and all of that, but yet they are pro trans women, which are men. Right. And gender affirming care only applies to the men who want to look like women, not women who want to feel more like a woman, or a man that wants, can men use it to go to Turkey and get hair plugs? Probably not.
You make good points. I don't know. Yeah. That is interesting how that plays out. Housing and education. Well, universal rent control, taxpayer funded social housing, guaranteed right to counsel for every tenant. Yeah. Tuition free public colleges, no out of pocket room and board costs, and cancellation of all student loan debt. I'm not making this up. This is what they have on their website. If you have student loan debt, somebody paid that debt. Somebody paid the schools or whatever you were doing to go there. And now what you're going to just tell them, sorry, because you put a loser through your school, they can't pay now. And sorry, you lost.
And with this, with all of these problems that they're going to solve by just wiping the debt clean or whatever, how come nobody's talking about the fact that school tuition has raised what, 200% over the past 15 years for college tuition, even in state. Maybe we could talk about solving that before we start talking about abolishing student loan debt, because the fact that these students were allowed to get $100,000 loans for a state college because state tuition went through the roof.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe start there instead of just saying, oh, just sweep it all under the rug. Don't solve the problem that state tuition is too high. Just, abolish that. It's you can sell it to low IQ people or people whose brains are not fully
developed. Or let's just say you're selling to 17 and 18-year-olds with the dream to do it, which, again, you're 18 years old, and you're like, hey, here you're presented with a free check for, let's just say $100,000. Doesn't that sound great, kid? Yeah. Oh, I want $100,000. I'll pay it back when I get my $1 million dream job.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's
radical feminist studies.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. Gender ideology studies.
Yeah. Speaking of, this is a little off topic, but the UT professor who was fired for her comments about Charlie Kirk, I guess is like going to settle for $1 million from University.
1.7 million.
Do you know what she taught?
Oh, I did know.
LGBTQ studies in Armenia. Like, ma'am, your job is dumb, and nobody needs. That's not like you're teaching microbiology. You're teaching some fabricated, like, that has nothing. I don't even think she actually lives here. I think she lives in Armenia most of the time.
Wow.
So it's just, and that sort of ideology that makes no real sense to anybody. Like, we want to. People who are going to major in LGBTQ Armenian studies need $100,000 loan from the government for giving. Like, why did you pick that? Yeah,
I know that. Again, we're writing topics for other stories. That we need to go, now we need to do homelessness, and we need to do college curriculums and that kind of thing.
Going back to what you said about 17 and 18-year-olds, they do want 16-year-olds to be able to vote in the DSA.
Yes, right. I mean, that sure, why not? Because they're impressionable, and when there's a lot of rules behind that, because number one, may not be paying taxes and all that stuff, and they're not an adult to it unless they're 18.
Right, but the fact that they've
been trying that for years though. Hillary Clinton tried to do that back in 2016 just alone. So.
Shocking. The Democrat candidate wanted to do that. That's insanity. Yeah. These kids don't have any business voting. They can't even drive a car. Yeah. They can't even, they have to ask permission to go to the restroom at school, and you want them to cast a vote for our president and our Senate and all of the rest of it. That's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. Looking at it. And my question is for everybody out there in the DSA and everybody who's socialist, communist, call you whatever you are. If you're not a capitalist, let me ask you a question. When did you decide to give up on life? That's my question. I mean, when was it said that you just said, you know what, I am not good enough, I am not smart enough or ambitious enough, so I'm giving up. Government needs to give me everything I need because I can't hack it myself. That's my question.
Solid question.
I mean, that might be harsh, but at the same time, that's literally what you're doing. You're saying, I cannot make it in a capitalist society, therefore I need to be taken care of by daddy forever.
If you can't make it in a capitalist society, particularly the United States of America, that's a you problem. Here in the United States, we can literally do anything we want to. You can have any job you want. You can create the job you want. People are successful doing some of the weirdest and wildest things. And that's only because capitalism exists. If you want to abolish capitalism in favor of socialism or communism, that is a failure as a person and as just having any sort of will to do better for yourself. If if you're stuck in some job where you're serving tables or you're a bartender or something like that, you need to think bigger than yourself. If that's not what you want to do forever, no amount of government help or assistance or anything like that is going to get you out of that hole. It's just going to make everyone else around you just as miserable as you are. Yeah. And that's what the DSA wants. They want everyone to be equal in their misery.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're happy doing what you want to do it by all means. But the difference is, don't complain to me that you're not, we're somewhere else in life. And that's how I look at it. Like, if you're going to make a job that's going to make $15 an hour for the rest of your life, fantastic. Do it. Be happy with $15 an hour, but don't complain to me or complain, to Elon Musk, who's a trillionaire, and be like, you need to give me more money. No, just stick it where you're at. And if you're happy with that, There's plenty of ways in order to improve your lot in life, especially in America. We're not a caste system.
Yeah.
You're not stuck in the certain level where you're at. It's
no, absolutely not. And I was thinking about that girl from TikTok who wrote that jingle for Dr. Pepper. And it was just her on her phone, just being goofy, singing some little song she made up about Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper paid her $3 million and aired that song during the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
you can do anything you want to here in the United States of America without any government intervention. No amount of government control is going to make your life any better. As a matter of fact, less government control is what is going to make your life better. Now, I say that, and I don't mean open drug use is a good thing to do.
Right. Yeah.
I don't mean that breaking laws or hurting other people is a good thing to do. But here in America, you can do anything you want to. Like, for instance, I wanted a job where I got to be on my phone on social media all day. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite thing. I've always loved reading the news. I've always loved knowing what's going on. So I started a social media company with clients that span the gamut from businesses to events to political people. Like, I just love it. And you know what the government did to help me do that? Nothing.
Right. Yeah.
No amount of socialism could have helped me achieve my goals of doing that. So for people who are trying to buy into this whole DSA, well, we need to help our neighbors. That's another thing that the DSA does. They change the language to soften the blow of what's really happening. So we no longer call them homeless. They're called unhoused.
Yes.
They're no longer called illegal aliens. They're called our neighbors. And, what was George Orwell?
Sure.
Read 1984. That's what the Socialist Party is doing right now. And I think the trigger point for that was Zoran Mamdani getting elected. I think that triggered everything else around the nation, and all the people who were true Democratic Socialists. That was their signal to start running for office and start pushing this ideology.
Yeah, I think it was a big trendsetter at that point, where everybody said, "Hey, it's okay. You can run it as a Democrat socialist, and you'll still win, and it's all right."
Yeah.
Now,
because he was running against an incumbent, Eric Adams, who probably should have been the one to get. I mean, he was terrible, but they could have survived another term of Eric Adams, and Cuomo, who also a garbage candidate. But that's what the DSA does. You either pick our candidate or you can run your trash candidates. Or here in the South, they don't run primaries at all. The Democratic Party does not run primaries. So in Knoxville, no Democrat candidate had a primary.
They had a primary. They didn't have an opponent.
It was unopposed.
Because they figure out that stuff ahead of time. Is what they put it together, basically.
Yes. They headhunted Bo Hawk. He ran unopposed in the primary. That means he gets to fundraise more. He doesn't spend any money in a primary. He gets to go out and meet with all these people as the Democratic nominee because there was nobody running against him. And that's what they do to secure power. And then if some other really true Democrat ran, well, it's probably some trash candidate that nobody really wanted. That's what we saw with Zoran Mamdani. And President Trump said, you can survive an Eric Adams and you can survive a Cuomo. You won't be able to survive a Mamdani mayoral candidacy. You just won't. Yeah. And Mamdani ran this super fun campaign where you got to go play Pokemon Go in Washington Square Park. And he showed up to all these things and he was the cool guy, kind of like Obama. Yeah. Obama was the cool guy. And then he gets elected, and on July 4th, he sits behind Washington's desk and trashes all these Americans. He releases an immigrant map of New York City and leaves off Little Italy, probably the most iconic immigrant neighborhood outside of Chinatown in New York. And why you would want to piss off the Italians, I don't know. But it's just you're gonna see the same thing happening. You'll see it here in Knoxville if he gets elected. These communities that have survived and that have thrived will be demonized in favor of our illegal immigrant neighbors and our, the unhoused. You'll see all of it. Yeah. It happens. You see it in Washington. You see it in California, Los Angeles. Nithya Raman is supported by the DSA. It's right.
Yeah. Well, I was going to talk about Katie Wilson out of Seattle too, as well, because I'm looking at this as well. A lot of this is these people have no experience in jobs. They've had either government jobs the entire time, or been supported by their parents, or been supported because there's some the organizer of riots or whatever they do. I'm trying to think. What was Barack
Community
Obama?
organizer.
Yeah, community organizer, community advocate, or something like that. I mean, they're putting all these titles on these people. They've only received a paycheck. They've never actually put their name on the front of a paycheck, and they have no idea what business works. And so you're seeing a lot of businesses leave Seattle. They're going across to Bellevue, across the river, or just leaving Washington altogether, which we saw at Starbucks.
In Tennessee.
Yep. I mean, we're looking at that. But you got so many companies now that are leaving Seattle, leaving New York City, even leaving Chicago, Los Angeles. I mean, these major players where they're like, we tried. Like we've been there for 50, 60 years, 70 years, some of the companies in California, and they're gone and they're just leaving. And some of them are taking losses too, where they're selling out their buildings or just leaving their buildings empty for that matter. Yeah. And they're losing money. But we're seeing the rise of people that have no business experience at all. They don't know what they're doing, and they're winning because people are like, yeah, let's take a new shot. Let's go in that direction. That sounds like a great plan. Let's see how it goes.
They're easy to control.
Yes.
They are not. So part of what the DSA does is that you have to co-govern with them.
Yeah.
You don't get to say, I'm the mayor, here's my agenda, and hopefully the city council or the county commission will vote in favor of your agenda, knowing that that's the platform you ran on. Yeah. No, you have to co-govern with the DSA. It is on their website. It is a known fact. Spencer Pratt, as a matter of fact, was one of the first people to point this out because he ran for mayor of Los Angeles, as we all know. And the DSA candidate, Nithya Raman, was the one that magically got all the mail-in ballots. And beat Spencer Pratt out by, even though she was way behind in third place, she somehow magically won. And she's the DSA candidate. And he told everybody, when you are part of the DSA, you have to co-govern with them. You don't get to enact your own agenda. You enact their agenda. Yeah. And if you don't, they'll primary you and kick you out of office, which is what we're seeing on the federal level now.
Do you think we'll see a collection of, let's say, middle of the road, moderate Democrats come out and say no to this? You got John Fetterman. I think Hakeem Jeffries is going to be knocking down. Like we're all worried right now. What do you do if you're that point and you're going to get a DSA candidate who's going to primary you? How do you combat that?
You grow a pair.
Well, I mean, when one candidate is saying, I'm going to give you free everything if you vote for me, and the other candidate's like, I'm going to govern to the best of my ability and listen to my community. Which one are you going to go for if you're 18 years old?
If it was me and if I was a Hakeem Jeffries or somebody like that, number one, I would out fundraise these people, which won't be hard because he's been in office for a while. Okay. And then I would explain how none of this can actually work. They can have all these great ideas, but they would need this many people in the Senate, this many people in the House to pass any of the nonsense that they're pushing and tell the truth if it is capable for a Hakeem Jeffries to do so. Yeah. Because if you're just going to go along with them, even though you disagree, because you're too afraid to not be in power anymore, then you don't need to be in power anyways. Yeah.
I think that's what's happening right now is you're seeing people that are like being supported in the beginning. They're being supported by the DSA and they're like, oh, great. Oh, this is a bunch of kids at college are going to support me. That's fantastic. Yes, let's do it together. And then all of a sudden the DSA gets more power than the person that they were pushing. And you're like, well, you're not going to do what we told. We hired you. We elected you. You're not doing what we want enough. Yeah. So now we're going to get rid of you. Yeah. And now we're going to install our other person in here. I mean, it's a horrible slippery. You talk about slippery slope. That is the ultimate slippery slope. Yeah, I don't know where this is going to play out. And I'm just hoping that enough kids can find Jesus. Let's just put it that way. That's my opinion on that one. I'll put that in there. And they can realize that, hey, free stuff is not free. And you need to have an actual family too, where people supportive and that kind of thing. And the people that are supporting you aren't the ones at the street corner with blue hair wearing inflatable frog costumes.
Yeah, I saw an interview with a guy who, I mean, he looked Democrat, you know what I'm saying? He had long hair, ponytail, glasses, just the look of him, you know what I'm saying? And he was a true Democrat. And he said, I'm sitting in this room of 25 people. None of them are married. None of them have children. And they were all in their 30s. Yeah. And you know, they are pro-abortion, they are anti-family, they are anti-women in the home. Like,
right.
Maybe not all of them, but that is definitely the message that I get as a conservative. And, you know, the conservatives didn't have to go through this type of kind of scary of losing your party, but they did have to shift from the Republican Party to the MAGA Republicans. It just is what it is. And there are a lot of Republicans that did not like Donald Trump, the never Trumpers. They didn't want to lose their party for Trump's agenda. Well, the Trump agenda obviously won. It's wildly popular. Yeah. It's got 100% approval rating amongst Republicans. It was what needed to happen to the Republican Party. Lucky for us as Republicans, it was great for our party. Yeah. The Democrats are going through the same thing. Unfortunately, the DSA is not going to be helpful to their party, and the Republican Party will crush them, because I still think that there are Democrats out there that aren't insane. I don't know where they are exactly, but I do think, you know, the older Democrats, the JFK Democrats, those type of people don't want all of this nonsense. They just don't. And they vote. And hopefully, you know, I made a video the other day. If you're a Democrat and you don't want to vote for socialism, but you really don't want to vote for Republican, don't vote. And I hate to say that, but if your only choice is evil or somebody you don't like that you just can't stomach to vote for, just sit this one out. Okay. Like, I'd hate to put the pressure on you to vote Republican, but the Republicans truly do have their citizens' best interest at heart, not this wild ideology that one day maybe hopefully will work. Like, this is a pipe dream that these Democratic Socialists are selling people. It won't work. It's never worked, no matter how many times you say it, no matter how much nonsense you put out there. It's never going to work. It never has, and it never will. So the people and there are people in my comment sections that are like, I can't wait to vote for this Democratic Socialist. I can't wait. It's like, I think you need to call a doctor, a therapist, before you cast your ballot, because there's something critically wrong with you, that the cognitive dissonance is blinding you to this flowery language and these, you know, high hopes of Medicare for everybody. How on earth is that going to work in a country our size?
No, they don't think.
And honestly, maybe it could, but unfortunately, billions of dollars have been stolen by the illegal immigrants that y'all want to keep coming into our country. That we were told we were racist because we don't want 20 million people to illegally come into our country. Brian, do you know how many people? 20 million people. Do you know how many states have a population of 20 million or less?
Oh, very few. I mean, we still have like 6 or 7 states. Yeah. That don't have million.
States have a population of 20 million people or less. That means the Biden administration allowed an entire state's worth of illegal immigrants into the interior of our country. And the Democratic Socialists want more of that. And they want them to vote. Yeah.
Yep, that's the whole thing. I mean, reading the rest of the website here: free migration, no deportations, and voting rights for non-citizens. How do you have a non-citizen who has no skin in the game and who just showed up on the shores, and you're going to say, hey, please vote for our thing? I don't understand that, because obviously they're going to vote for whoever decides to give them the best. So we're seeing a bunch of problems with that, but full voting rights, people.
It's globalism. It's globalism. And that's where the Soros people enter the chat, because they are pro-globalist. Obviously, they make tons of money off of, you know, exploiting people. And they're suffering because only George Soros can fund our problems, save our problems. Like, I see everybody tearing Elon Musk apart. He's sending rocket ships to the moon and he's landing them, catching them midair with chopsticks. Like, I want billionaires and trillionaires to spend all of their money. I want every single dime to go to whatever it is that they want. Because here's my thought. If truly being a billionaire is unethical and there's no ethical way to be a billionaire, then why do you want these unethical people to solve humanitarian problems? If they are truly evil, why do you want them to solve, you know, global hunger? If they are, I don't want evil people to solve problems. I want good people to solve problems. So I hope that every billionaire and trillionaire out there spends all their money. Jeff Bezos, I hope that he injects his wife's face full of plastic until she looks like a cat. I hope they spend all of their money, because at least that's contributing to capitalism.
You lost me with the Bezos wife, but okay.
You know what I'm saying? People gave Bezos so much crap because he spent all this money on his wedding to his wife. And she looks insane. I love her. and send, Katy Perry to the moon. Like, spend all your money doing all the crazy stuff. It's making money,
If Taylor Swift wants to have a wedding at Madison Square Garden with turn the temperature down to 54 degrees, she should be able to do that. That's fine. Well, everybody else in New York has lost power and don't. And by the way, she had a complete police force watching that thing for security and everything else. But don't worry about the common man. It's all about the Swifties. So, all right, it's an interesting take to limit what's going on with the DSA and what we're seeing. And I'm my thing too. Looking at this, they're asking for so much. But if we say, and we start negotiating with them as Republicans or even moderates, we start negotiating with them and say, well, we can't give you Medicare for all, but we'll give Medicare, like 80% of the people. But it's the negotiation at this point. They're starting way to heck, even off the map. They're starting way up there. And if we allow them to have any little bit of that, that's the problem we're running into.
The thing is we have a Medicare and Medicaid system here. Me personally, I think every child in America should be able to get health care if they need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your parents can't carry you on their health insurance, or your parents, like here in Tennessee, if your parents to have a job where they don't offer health care, or your dad owns a car lot or whatever, and they don't have health insurance, then we have TennCare for children. And there's even a different type of TennCare from 0 to 5 that's different from the one that's from 5 to 18. Because that is a great safety net to have in our society. However, grown adults have the ability to go get their own health care. And if they don't, we have safety nets for that too, for the disabled or the mentally ill or anything like that. Like, we already have great programs. Unfortunately, those programs have been robbed. And that's where we're struggling now. The Democratic Socialists want to say, oh, Medicare for all. We have it. Not everybody wants Medicare. Some people want private insurance. It's just better. And, right now that's another issue we can get into, right? Jot it down, the cost of healthcare. You probably know more about it than me, but it has skyrocketed over the past, 20 years. I remember my mom telling me, oh yeah, when I was working and I had healthcare, it was like $80 a month. And I'm like, well, mine's like $600. So
I mean, same thing with public schools versus private schools. I mean, everybody's allowed to go to public schools, but we have private schools because some people want to pay more for a different education. And the same thing with different healthcare. Maybe they want different stuff. So it's something to watch for sure. With the rest of the primaries happening around the country, we're going to be looking to the general after that. And we're going to see, it's one thing to win on the Democrat side as a DSA, but will they win the general against the Republicans or even an independent at that point? And that's where we need to stay on top of this. Share with your neighbors, talk about it. If anybody can come up with an actual plan of where all this magical money will come from that will actually support these dreams and hopes of the Democrat Socialist America, let us know what it is. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. And that's the truth between lines.